Light is an essential part of our lives. According to EnergyStar.gov, if all Americans use the right type of light bulbs, they can save more than $6 billion a year to light their homes. So the question is, how do we choose the right light bulb for our homes? We talked to a few customers to try to see if they understand how to buy the right light bulb.
Okay, 60 watt puts out, I think, sufficient light, so I usually don't go the 40 watts is not quite enough. 75 watt is probably too much, and a lot of the devices and or lamps and stuff call for 60 watts. They don't like 75 watts or higher. Yeah. So that's kind of how I picked it.
The lumens are the brightness.
Okay.
How bright?
Oh, I see.
It's related to the wattage rating. Okay. The lower the watt rating, the lower number of lumens. Okay. Lumens is brightness.
Okay.
The color scale of 2700K to 6500K. That has to do with the color of the light.
So
you can have the lower number, you get more of a yellowish tint.
Let's take a look at a light bulb box and see what information on the box can help us choose the right bulb. So this is a pair of LED dimmable bulbs, and we can start by taking a look at the top left corner here, which has the wattage. So here it says 75W or 75 watts. Replacement uses only 13 watts. Now, what does that mean? Well, old light bulbs, called incandescent light bulbs, were inefficient compared to LEDs. So the old bulbs had to use 75 watts to produce the same amount of light that these bulbs produce with only 13 watts used. Now, what do I mean when I say amount of light? Well, what I'm referring to is basically something called lumens right over here. The brightness of the light. So the amount of lumens or brightness in this bulb is 1100 lumens, and we'll cover more about lumens later. Next up, we have the estimated energy cost. In this case, the estimated energy cost is $1.56 per year. How did they get this number? Well, if I look on the back, there's something called the lighting facts. And if I take a look right over here to something called the estimated yearly energy cost, which is $1.56, this is based on using the bulb 3 hours per day at a price of 11 cents per kilowatt hour. Obviously, the usage will depend on the user, and the energy cost will vary in different cities and states. Now, over here, it is mentioned that the light bulb lasts 13 years, and more specifically, 15,000 hours. Again, if we take a look at the lighting facts in the back, we can see that for the life, it's based on using the light bulb 3 hours per day, and that turns out to be 13.6 years. Finally, we have something right over here that says soft white, and it has this orange looking color. This is something called the color temperature or light appearance. So if I flip to the back, you can see that the light appearance for this bulb is 2700 K or Kelvin. And it's referred to as warm light. We'll also explain this more later on. So you can already see that there are so many confusing labels and information on the box that can be very overwhelming. Some of them are just to compare with the previous technologies of light bulbs and how much the energy cost is. But the most important things we need to focus on are found on the back in lighting facts. So there are 3 important facts that we need to focus on. Number 1, which is the brightness of light, in this case 1100 lumens. Number 2 is energy used, so 13 watts. And finally, we have to look at the light appearance. In this case, it is 2700 degrees Kelvin. So we can cover these terms one by one to get a better understanding. So here's a setup to explain the different units of light, lux and lumens in this case. So if we take a look over here, we see that there is a 1 meter by 1 meter square, so a square meter. And if we take a look in the center, we can see that there's a phone with a mobile app open, which is the light meter. Now, we're going to understand what 1 lux is. So here's a candle which is emitting 1 lumen at a distance of 1 meter away from the sensor in the square meter. So the amount of light that reaches that square meter is 1 lux. In this case, the one candle is emitting 1 lux. So if we take a look over here, we have quite a few candles, and each candle has a light capacity of 1 lumen that reaches the light sensor. So now that the lights are off, let's set up the experiment to see the effect that the candle has on the sensor. So let me light the candle, like I'm doing right here, and hopefully it stays. There we go. And you can see that the sensor went from 1 to 1, and it's going to go back to 0. So let's give it a few seconds to settle down. And now you can see that finally it's settled down, and it reads a reading of 1 LX, or 1 lux. So let's understand this. Now this is the candle, which is 1 lumen, and it's a distance of 1 meter away from the sensor, which has a area of 1 square meter. That results in 1 lux. So now let's set up 2 candles to see that the effect it has. So let me light up the second candle, and I'll place it right next to the first candle. And we can see that the sensor now reads 2 LX, or again 2 lux. So just to recap all of this, we have 2 candles, or 2 lumens, which are lighting up the square meter, and that results in 2 lux being read by the sensor. Let me light up the third candle, and I'll also place this candle next to the others. And again, it's a distance of 1 meter. And I'll give the sensor a couple of seconds to settle down. And you can see that it's flickering between 2 and 3 lux. So that's what the third candle did. Now let me light up the fourth candle, and we'll see the effect this one has. So now we have the fourth candle lit, and you can see that immediately the sensor reads 4 lux. So again, we have 4 candles, or 4 lumens, which results in 4 lux. Now let's have some fun and reverse this. Let's take a look at the lumens and lux values in typical environments. So we are at a stadium under a stadium light, and there are many lights in this stadium. Looks like they're playing cricket in this field here. So let's see what the lux reading is. So now we're in the center of a empty baseball field with the sensor on the first base. So let's take a look at what the sensor is reading now. So it reads about 294 lux. A watt is a unit of electrical energy. The power consumption of small devices is usually measured in watts, and the power consumption of larger devices is measured in kilowatts. The price of electricity for homes is measured in how much you pay per kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour means consuming 1 kilowatt of energy for 1 hour. This shows how many kilowatt hours have been consumed in my house. This is how the electrical company can calculate the monthly charges. Here it is showing how many kilowatts are being consumed right now. In our area, the price of electricity which we are paying is approximately 17.8 cents per kilowatt hour. There is another term in the light bulb industry that is becoming more common. This term is called luminous or light efficacy, which is measured as lumens per watt. The term measures how much light can be produced in consuming 1 unit of electrical power, or a watt. You should always consider this before buying any light bulb. Calculating the lumens per watt of a light bulb is very easy. It's done by dividing the lumens by the actual watts that the bulb uses. So let's do it for the bulb that we were reviewing earlier. The amount of light that this bulb produces is 1100 lumens and the energy it consumes is 13 watts. This bulb has a light efficacy of about 85 lumens per watt. So far, the highest efficacy light bulb ever created has 235 lumens per watt as of May 2021. That means that I can potentially buy a light bulb which costs 1/3 of the electrical cost that I would be paying for the bulb we were looking at earlier. Here's another interesting fact. The greatest efficacy which can theoretically be achieved is 683 lumens per watt, which is about 8 times cheaper than the bulb we reviewed earlier. Hopefully I can witness this efficacy in my lifetime. Color temperature is our final important segment to look at when buying light bulbs. If I have a piece of metal and I heat it to 2700 degrees Kelvin, this is the color that the metal would appear as. In light bulbs, this is the scale that is used to describe the appearance of light. Generally, there are 3 main appearances: warm white, bright white, and daylight. The light bulb we reviewed has a light appearance of 2700 Kelvin, which is referred to as soft white. If you want a natural, sun-like light in your environment, then you should buy a bulb that has a color temperature or light appearance of 5000 Kelvin. This is purely a personal preference, but it's an important aspect to consider when selecting a bulb. So most of the stores had a setup to demonstrate color temperature. So basically, I place my hand inside and select soft white, bright white, and daylight so I can experience the color temperatures. So that was it. Hopefully that clears up the information needed to buy a good light bulb, which can help us save billions of dollars as well as save the environment. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.